Hello, Unity Triangle folks. Gregg Levoy here, coming to you from the West Coast. I'm delighted to be able to share some thoughts with you here this morning. And after a year that perhaps we thought would never end, but also in the continued midst of tumultuous times, but also opportune times. For instance, this past year has finally found me entering the brave new world of online teaching and presenting, which only took me 10 years and a plague to finally come around at doing. And at the risk of being blunt, nature has a pretty simple word for those who are unable or unwilling to adapt to change, and the word is extinct. And I think it goes as much for the individual as it does for the species. And the pandemic, of course, has been calling on us to adapt. And for some people, the regime change in Washington has been calling on them to adapt. But either way, adaptation is really just another way of saying to grow. Okay. So Maslow is the psychologist who gave us what's called the hierarchy of needs pyramid. Okay, at the bottom, food, clothing, and shelter. A little bit above that, belonging to a tribe, etc. At the top, what he called self-actualization. Although right before he died, he added a new pinnacle to that pyramid, and he called it self-transcendence. But this is what he said about self-actualization. He said self-actualizing types, which would be the kind of people who tend to fulfill their potential, also tend to be the kind of people who tend to make the growth choice over the fear choice routinely. In phase one of responding to a calling, which of course is the beginning of any hero's or heroine's journey, phase one is running from it. Okay, it's universal, it's inevitable, it's about fear and resistance, and maybe anger at having your boat rocked, okay? And which of course callings specialize in, all right? Though it's quite possible that the degree of resistance you might have to whatever the pandemic year has been calling for from you might actually be proportionate to the amount of power and growth waiting to be unleashed when the no turns into a yes. Is chaos precedes creation. Okay? Chaos precedes creation. If you deny yourself the one, you're probably going to deny yourself the other. So one way to approach this pandemic year, in other words, and one of the purposes it can serve is in exploring how your life might grow and evolve as a result of it. How the chaos and the coronavirus, what it might be calling for from you, whether creatively or professionally, interpersonally, spiritually, all right? It's really, in a sense, it's an opportunity to take an inventory. How have you been responding to all of this? The pandemic, the political turmoil, etc. What are you learning? What are you discovering about yourself? Where are growth and creation being evoked? And to ask yourself questions along the lines of what wants to emerge here at this juncture for you, or awaken for you, right? What's being given an unexpected entrance cue? What course corrections are being called for? What silver linings are appearing? And of course, what do you want your new normal to look like once the pandemic is in the rearview mirror? That the sudden disruption in your daily rhythms, to say nothing of the isolation, might unleash your creativity, inventiveness, resourcefulness in ways that wouldn't have happened otherwise. But if these events have unfolded, let's say, in order to bring you a lesson, what do you imagine that lesson might be? So saying that you trust the universe has to include trusting that it is also reliably chaotic and random, and that these are forces that operate on affairs down here on the home planet, as we've seen in extremis this year, of course. All right. So trusting the universe means trusting it to be itself, which is a combination of reliable and unreliable, and understanding that you yourself are going to probably operate in a pretty much similar fashion. Now, this requires what I once heard somebody describe as heroism redefined for the modern age, which is the ability to tolerate paradox, okay? To hold two seemingly contrary ideas or impulses or beliefs inside you at the same time, and still retain the ability to faith and fear, for example, us and them, okay? Head and heart, reliable and unreliable. Both of them exist simultaneously. One doesn't cancel out the other, okay? And I believe that paradox requires that you bring these two together to talk to one another. Staying in conversation with the universe. Staying in conversation, in co-respondence with the universe, okay? And I think there's a lot of ways of doing that. Dialoguing with the dragons in your life. Asking for dream guidance. Listening to your body. Honoring intuitions and synchronicities. Meditation. Spending time in the natural world. For that matter, journaling. Journaling is actually a fabulous tool for connecting with the bigger picture. Sitting respectfully with things as they are, which I grant you is a high art, easier said than done, but sitting respectfully with things as they are, or feeling what you feel without even needing to understand it, no less do something about it. And maybe even also having a certain forbearance just for mystery, for not knowing, for things being indecisive and unclear and ambiguous, okay? Not just out in the universe mysterious, but in here as well.